stretching is really important if you want to rest and rejuvenate. People often think of yoga movements. I call them doga movements. I have a collection of certain movements that I love as practices for elongating the body and pairing that with breathing for rest, rejuvenation, and recovery. One of the reasons people feel so good in yoga, or they feel so good in other modalities, is because for the first time, they are attending to their breathing as one of the most important things. Think about it. If you've ever been to a yoga class, what does the yoga teacher say? Breathe in and out of the movement. Only choose the movement that you can continue to breathe in and out of. If you can't breathe in and out of this movement, don't do the movement. So go into the movement so you can breathe in and out. How many times did I say breathe in and out? That's all they're doing. They're reminding you as an exercise in memorization to breathe. But otherwise, if you're exercising and you're doing a bench press, you're probably holding your breath. Why? Because that is the strongest way to do it. If you're squatting or deadlifting, you're holding your breath. Why? Because that's the most efficient, effective way to do it, is to brace through your system and just allow your limbs to do the work. So, stretching is really important. But if you want to add a rest, rejuvenation, and recovery component, make breathing the most important part of stretching. So, as an example, everybody knows how to stretch your hamstrings or quads. You can immediately conjure up an image or a recent experience or an experience you had in the past, or seeing somebody else do a stretching activity. And you can imagine, somewhat within that stretch, how could you add a breathing component? If you were stretching your hamstrings, how could you breathe while stretching your hamstrings? So if you're reaching for your toes, whether you're in a seated position or bent forward, you could exhale one way and then breathe in while you're relaxing out of the stretch. Or you could exhale through the reach and exhale as you relax the stretch. There are a couple different tricks to gaining and eliciting more recovery, rest, and rejuvenation from a stretching practice. But the main point of this video is this. When you're going to stretch, don't just do stretching for stretching, but build in the practice rest, rejuvenation, and recovery. And you do that by adding a breathing component. So, I've already highlighted one very basic strategy, and that is exhale through the stretch and continue to exhale as you come out of the stretch. So then you need to make sure that you breathe in. And if you want to add a second strategy, then when you breathe in, don't breathe in as much as you could possibly do. So don't inflate your lungs all the way. Keep them slightly deflated. That'll allow your rib cage to be a little bit more permeable, so you can have a little more flow to it, and then go back into the stretch. Now, why would you do that? Well, if your goal is rest, rejuvenation, and recovery, which, remember, is not load management. Just because you're doing less doesn't mean you're recovering. It just means you're not spending as much energy. Doesn't mean you're building energy. It's not the same thing. If you want to build energy, you need to breathe in. But more than just breathing in, you need to exhale. So you need to modulate how much you breathe in and exhale depending on what you're trying to do. So I've highlighted a strategy, which would be to exhale through the stretch and exhale through the relaxation of the stretch. One basic strategy. Strategy number 2 would be exactly what strategy number 1 was, but now you limit how much air you're breathing in. What that does is that taps into a different reserve of your lungs. So you're going to go deeper into your lungs capacity, because generally, as a rule of thumb, you're constantly somewhat still inflated in your lungs and in your diaphragm because you're holding on to extra air. So at this point, you're tapping into the bottom part of your lungs and getting that air out, which is really important to rejuvenating your body and getting out toxins. So if you found this video to be interesting, you would like to learn more, check out my YouTube page, DominicSessi.com. Check out my Instagram. If you want to know more, just shoot me an email. We'll talk soon.